Alright, so this is Mike and Jose, and we are doing a right and left boxing jab movement analysis. So right now, Jose, can you just do a right jab for me? So right now, what we have at the shoulder girdle as he's punching with the right is we have elevation, some protraction, and a little bit of upward rotation, not a ton. So the muscles that are going to be engaged are the levator scapula, the trapezius, the upper fibers of the traps, the rhomboids, the serratus anterior, the pec minor, the subclavius, and on the left side, while he's jabbing, we're going to have some retraction, a little bit of downward rotation, and some depression. The contraction on the right side is going to be concentric because he's going against gravity as he punches, while on the left side it's going to be eccentric because he's going with gravity. And let me reframe that. On the right side it's concentric because he's going against gravity. Moving on to our shoulder joint as he jabs is we have some on the right side, we have some flexion at the shoulder joint, while on the left side, on the right side we actually have flexion and horizontal adduction, and then on the left side we have flexion. On the right side, the muscles that are being engaged are the anterior deltoid, the pec major, and the coracoid brachialis, the deltoid, the middle fibers, and the posterior fibers, the latissimus dorsi, the infraspinatus, and teres minor. On the left side, the muscles being used are the pec major, the upper fibers, the deltoids, the anterior fibers, and the right side contraction of this jab is concentric because it's going against gravity, while the left side is eccentric because he's going with gravity at the shoulder joint. Now moving on to the elbow, as he's jabbing to the right, we have extension on the right side. So the muscles being used on the right side will be the triceps brachii, the ansius, the biceps brachii, the brachialis, and the brachioradialis. This makes this contraction concentric because he's going against gravity, while on the left side there's flexion of the elbow. You can see this flexion of the elbow on the left side when we come around here. Jab with the right, he's still flexing that elbow. That means that the muscles being engaged are the biceps brachii, the long head and the short head, the brachialis, the brachioradialis, and the pronator teres. The right side contraction at the elbow is concentric because he's going against gravity, while the left side is going to be eccentric as he's going with gravity. Now moving on, now we just finished our upper body 3 joints. We're now going to move to the 2 of the lower. The first we're going to talk about is the hip. So Jose, you can jab again to the right, stay there. So at the hip, we have on the right side, as you can see, some external rotation, while the left side is internally rotated. That means the right side contraction is going to be concentric because he's going against gravity, while the internal rotation of the left hip is going to be eccentric. The muscles being used during the right sides of external rotation is the gluteus minimus, the gluteus medius, the tensor fasciae latae, the semitendinosus, the semimembrananeous, and the gracilis. On the left side, the internal rotating muscles are going to be the iliacus, the psoas major and minor, the pectineus, the adductor brevis, adductor magnus, biceps femoris, the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, the posterior fibers, the femoris, and that's all for the hip joint. Now, still looking at the trunk, we're now going to be looking at the knee. The knee's the same deal. When he jabs to the right, his right knee is going to be internally rotating, while his left knee is going to be externally rotating. This means that the right side and the left side, their contraction types are going to be concentric because they're both moving, they're both doing work, they're both going against gravity. The muscles being used at the right side for internal rotation are the semitendinosus, the semimembrananeous, and the popliteus. While on the left side, the muscles being used to externally rotate are the biceps femoris and the sartorius. Moving on to the lumbar region, we have here when he's doing a right jab, when he's doing a jab, he's actually doing left lateral rotation to the left side. It's hard to see, so I'm going to come around here for you guys to see it. This left lateral rotation of this lumbar. Even though he's jabbing to the right, his lumbar is moving to the left. This makes the right side concentric and the left side concentric because they're both moving against gravity as this hip is moving through the range of motion of jabbing. So the muscles being engaged on the left are the erector spinae, the erector oblique, and the internal oblique, and the quadriceps lumborum. Now moving on to the last, but not least, on here is we're doing our ankle. This is going to be the most complicated and hard to see, so I'm going to try and get you guys up and close. So, jab for me. As you can see, as he's jabbing, he's doing clear plantar flexion on the right side. What's hard to see is that he's actually doing a very small amount of dorsal flexion on the left side as he's turning, but he is dorsal flexing. This means that the right side, when he's plantar flexing, is going to be a concentric movement because he's going against gravity, versus the left side is going to be eccentric because he's going with gravity. The muscles being used on the right are the gastrocnemius, the soleus, the tibialis posterior, the flexor digitorum longus, the flexor hallucis longus, the perinosus, the fibularis longus, and the peris fibularis brevis. On the left side, the muscles being used as he's dorsal flexing is the peris fibularis teres, the extensor digitorum, and the extensor hallucis longus, and the tibialis anterior. And that is all I have here for this right jab. From that stance position he's starting in to jabbing to the left. I'm now going to turn it over to my partner Jose, who's going to explain to you the movements from the right jab to the left jab.